So, no matter what you thought of last night's episode, one thing is very apparent. Alice got her ass whooped. Hi guys, my name is Maria Park, and this is Approach the Nerd. And in this episode, we are reviewing Batwoman, Season 2, Episode 2, entitled Prior Criminal History. The episode was really good. I'm not going to go verbatim like I normally say that I'm not. I'm not going to go break down the scene by scene by scene, but I'm going to tell you some of the things that I thought were cool about this episode and some questions that I have because that's fun. I will say I like how realistic it is that Ryan cannot find a job. I mean, the episode basically begins with her in a job interview talking up all her merits and, all of her, experience and her martial arts skills. And then he gets down to the line where she was in prison. And then he's like, And even then she tries to save it saying, who else could you hire with somebody who knows what other criminals are thinking, and I'm really good at reading faces and intentions. And the guy's like, well, what does my face say now? And Ryan's like, I'm not getting this job. And I'm like, that's so realistic. And I feel bad because, again, she was set up by the crows. That's what we're hearing anyway. We know that there is a woman involved because later on, she goes to a convenience store and she tries to stop this robbery, which is pretty cool. But she gets, hit. And then when she goes to check on the attendant at the store, of course, one of the crows shows up and she gets arrested and they take her in. And Sophie and her have a history. Apparently, Ryan's been in trouble before, and I guess Sophie was one of the people that arrested her in the past. Or I'm not sure their entire history, but they definitely know each other. And it's not in a loving, like Kate and Sophie type way. It's more of a... I think Sophie annoys Ryan, and Ryan definitely annoys Sophie. But honestly, I think everything annoys Sophie, and I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, so I do feel sorry for Ryan. She's going through it. And speaking of interrogation, Jacob has pulled both Luke and Mary in to question them about Kate, because now that he knows that his daughter was Batwoman, he can't believe that Luke, the assistant, and Mary, the sister, know. And I love how Mary pulls it off by saying, Kate pushed me away and kept me at arm's length. It wasn't like we were sharing secrets and painting each other's nails, basically. So you really think she would, an icebreaker for us would be, I'm Batwoman? And I actually love that she used that because it's believable. Because according, in his eyes, Mary and Kate haven't bonded over her being Batwoman because he never knew she was Batwoman. So that is very believable. But I will tell you what I thought was cool. And Sophie was interrogating Luke. And he was effing rabid. He was like, so you're asking who Batwoman's enemies were? You mean besides everyone in this damn building? And then he's like, I really wish that Kate had somebody that she loved looking out for her. And Sophie got so mad. But Sophie in this episode really and truly pisses me off. She pisses me off a lot. I love the actress, but her character gets on my nerves. She actually got on my nerves a lot last season too. But it's because she's so flaky and wishy-washy. But this time, I don't like what she's doing with Julia. Because Kate's gone, and she's mad that Kate's dead, and she's mad that Kate never, filled her in on her being Batwoman and trusted her. And obviously, Julia knew. She's very bitter and resentful, so she's taking all of it out on poor Julia. And I feel really bad because Julia actually likes her. And I don't know why. I don't think anyone should like Sophie because Sophie does have a level of arrogance and she's very wishy-washy. 1 minute she's like, oh, I want this. And then, no, I can't. My job and my status and blah, blah, blah. And even though she did have a little coming out episode, which I liked, she really hasn't progressed in that mindset. She keeps herself in a damn box. So, never mind a closet. So Sophie she just needs to chill the F out. But the irony of Sophie in this episode is she gives Ryan some advice because Ryan makes a comment saying, it's not really her fault that she keeps being in situations, that she's not actually at fault, but she gets in trouble for. And then, here's Sophie, word of advice, if you're in the wrong place all the time, maybe you should stop being in the wrong place, well, then she should have taken her own advice because at the end of this episode, we meet Whisper, the Whisper, who is working for Sophia, and she is coming for Alice, but Sophie already knows where Alice is, thanks to Julia, giving her a heads up. And she's like, well, we'll keep it between us so that nobody will go and, take this chance away from Sophie to deal with Alice. Like, that's really going to happen. But she does pull a gun on her, and she does make Alice handcuff herself behind her back. But then the Whisper shows up and knocks Sophie out. And I kept thinking, maybe you shouldn't be in the wrong place at the wrong time. I'm like, yeah, she annoys me greatly. Okay, but this episode, a lot of cool things happen. Number one, Sophie, once again, let it kind of slip in a way that Alice is actually Beth Kane. Because Ryan was talking about the fact that, I keep getting arrested all the time, but yet an actual serial killer like Alice just keeps walking around scot-free. And, she's like, I know the real reason that Jacob Kane won't put a bullet in her. And then Sophie says, well, his sympathy for her is long past gone, basically. And then she's like, wait, what? What are you talking about? She was talking about the fact that he wouldn't shoot her because she's white. And Sophie kind of let it slip that, oh, wait, they have a connection. And so that's when Ryan puts two and two together and goes to see Mary. And something happens in the scene. There's two things actually that happen in the scene where they're, at the clinic, Mary's clinic. That's interesting. Number one, I thought that Ryan was going there to talk about the kryptonite gunshot wound because, it's infected and she really should get it looked at. She even is bothered by it a little bit in this episode too. But no, it doesn't even come up. She actually goes there to confront Mary about her sister, Beth Kane, being Alice. I thought that was interesting. And the second thing is, and I don't know how they didn't catch this in post, but when Mary talks about her mother being killed by Alice, she doesn't say the bitch killed my mother. She said that bitch kills my mother. Like it's a repetitive action. So it's a little nitpick, but I thought it was interesting. But yeah, so long story short with that, Mary tells her the story about her mother being poisoned and them giving one, only having the one antidote, and of course the mother making Mary take it and her mother dying in her arms. So Ryan instantly is like, well, yeah, you just tell me where Alice is. I'll go take care of her for both our moms, because Ryan, she's not opposed to killing. Now, I don't know if this is actually true. This is grief and anger and the need for revenge talking. I don't know how far Ryan would go in terms of killing, because I don't know in her past if she's capable of killing after seeing her mother killed in front of her. But again, we don't really know Ryan 100%. Like, even when Sophie talks about her covering for her drug dealing girl, like the drug dealing girl or woman, it seems like Ryan was in a toxic relationship with somebody who probably is the reason that she went to prison, but yeah, neither here nor there. But yeah, so I love Ryan and Alice's fight. And they get to that point because Alice literally does something that Batman uses bats a lot, especially in the animated series. And in the Christian Bale version, like, it's just a trick that Batman uses where he releases a bunch of bats as a distraction, or sometimes they carry things, blah, blah, blah. Well, she does the same thing in a very gross way. She uses the dead body of Mouse, because they show a scene where he talks about how bats like to eat rats. So she takes this rat and she duct tapes it on Mouse's chest. And so the bats go in to eat, and of course they're going to continuously eating. So they actually go inside of his body. And then they bring the body, one of the guys finds the body in the sewer and brings it to, I guess in the sewer. Actually, it could have been right outside the clinic. More than likely, Alice dropped it right outside Mary's clinic. And when they open it, Mary's like, oh, it's Mouse. And then it starts moving, and you see that there's a bat, and it comes flying out. And I love Ryan's reaction to, well, I'm scared of bats. And I'm like, that's such an homage to Bruce, because Bruce was always scared of bats in the comics and in the movies. He was terrified of bats, and that was one of his greatest fears. So did like that. But yeah, so right now, Ryan is not Batwoman. She's not comfortable being Batwoman. She thinks, as she said, it's one thing to wear the suit, or it's one thing to put it on and another to wear the suit. So she understands the magnitude of wearing the bat suit in Gotham and what that means for her. But because Kate is gone and Gotham has no superhero right now, all of the citizens that are pro Batwoman are protesting, which Alice uses as the vehicle for releasing all of these toxic bats, which I'll get to in a second. But that means that they need to have a Batwoman. And I love that Mary and Ryan are trying to convince Luke to let her pose as Kate on top of the building and try and get the protesters to go. Maybe if they see her, they're like, okay, you're back, we'll go home. Well, it doesn't work. They just kind of hang out. But before she does that, I love like how Luke is like so hesitant because he's like, well, number one, she's not Kate, and number two, you black. I'm like, I thought that was really funny, but it kind of makes sense because I mean, at the rally, at the protest, Jacob sees her and grabs binoculars and then realizes that she's black and not Kate. And I'm like, nothing stopped any of the protesters from having like, you know, a really good camera to zoom in on our binoculars and seeing the same thing. But I guess I didn't think that far. But for the most part, though, I loved Mary talking Ryan through how to pose as a hero confidently. That was really funny. But then came like one of the most badass scenes in this episode, and that is the first altercation between Alice and Ryan. And Alice held up a little bit when they were fighting, but Ryan beat Alice's ass to the point where Alice had to use the remote to release the bats to get away. Then girl ran out the door. I'm like, because I think Alice knew at that point, and she even says it to Mary when she brings Mary the cure for the toxin, to cure all the people that were bit by the bats, because she had some of Mary's blood that had the desert rose in it. She even says to Mary that she met the new girl, and you know, pretty much she's not holding back. She's gonna be a handful because this girl doesn't care if she kills me. That's basically what she says, and I love how everybody kind of calls out how how Alice is actually grieving Kate. It's not that she's just angry because she couldn't kill Kate. She realizes that Kate was the only one that gave a damn about her. And so she is having issues now that Kate's gone because the new girl in town don't give 5 shits about her. So I do love everybody's connected, universe and roles in each other's life. And speaking of connection, we also learned that at one point in the past, Batwoman saved Ryan from thugs and wrote about it in her journal later. It actually says that she met somebody that was kind of like her when she was writing her journal to Bruce. And then we see Ryan read this, randomly finds this entry out of all the entries and then starts a new entry, but now she's writing to Kate. And I thought that was really cool, like a continuation of that, I guess, because Kate in a way is going to be her mentor. And so I do like that even Kate has a connection to Ryan in the series now too. But yeah, like overall, I mean, it was a great episode. I loved her driving the Batmobile and basically comparing it to her van not being able to go over 40. Luke is just brutal. Luke doesn't, it's not just missing Kate, which he obviously is. He is so like super protective of the bat suit and everything in the bat cave. And he's like, it's almost like he doesn't want anybody to have any of it. I don't even think Bruce could come back and get any of it. Like he's just like, I don't care who you are. You're not getting it. So for him to let Ryan not only pose as Kate, but then agree until Kate comes back to allow her to be Batwoman at the end of the episode, that was pretty epic. So yeah. And then of course, as I mentioned earlier, we got to see Whisper, or I don't know if they're going to call her Whisper Adair. I mean, she is a Ra's al Ghul assassin, a Batman villain. And it's interesting because I kind of feel like Safia is going to be built up to be Ra's al Ghul in this, because you know how Oliver had Ra's al Ghul, and then we couldn't have Bruce Wayne or Batman at the time when we had Arrow. So now we need to have, I guess, the female equivalent of Ra's al Ghul. So that's going to be Safia. So Safia will be the new Ra's al Ghul, and of course, the Whisper will be one of her minions. And I did read we're getting another. I guess he's going to be an ally called Ocean. Now, I've never heard of him, so this doesn't sound like a DC character, so he's probably a creation for this series. A Zen gardener and warrior is what his character description is, and he's going to come to Gotham, I guess, kind of like Rurouni Kenshin, I guess. Only probably will kill people, I don't know. We'll see. But I am super excited for what happens, but I need to know if Ryan's kryptonite, because I know that the kryptonite bullet is supposed to be able to penetrate, the only material able to penetrate the batsuit, and that Ryan did get shot, and we do see that there is like some kind of infection with the kryptonite going on her chest. And I kind of wonder if that was the intention all the time, because yes, kryptonite can kill a Kryptonian very quickly. A bullet can kill a human very quickly, but a ricocheted bullet with kryptonite is a whole different story. So how does the bullet infect you if it doesn't completely penetrate the suit, and just, I guess, maybe like the tip of the bullet got her? I don't know. I'm curious to see where they're going with that, because we know what happened with Lex Luthor with kryptonite. He ended up getting cancer, and he was human. So I'm hoping we're not about to be setting Ryan up for some health problems in the future, that she's not going to be able to get around because of the kryptonite, because it is an object not of this earth. So it's not like they have a vaccine or anything. So yeah, I'm definitely wondering about that. And then, of course, poor Julia, because Julia got stabbed by Alice. Alice was so desperate, even went to Julia for help with Sophia. And I felt like Sophie didn't even give a crap about that. So the whole situation with Sophie and Julia irritates me. Honestly, if Mary doesn't swing by and end up with Ryan, which could happen, I wouldn't mind Julia having a relationship with Ryan, as long as it's not Sophie. I swear, if they put Sophie and Ryan together, I'm gonna like explode, because not only will that make Sophie like the hoe of the show because she's been with everybody, she, like, I don't like their they don't have chemistry to me. I don't even see them as really good friends. I mean, yeah, life can change and with more character development, but I just don't see it happening, and I actually don't want it to happen. I don't want Sophie to be the main girl again, because honestly, I don't know what Kate saw in her the first time. So that's just me. Season 1, I was kind of like, okay, Sophie, Kate, maybe I can kind of see it. I was trying to get on board, but the more she opens her mouth and talks, the more I dislike her. So, and she's definitely dislikable right now. But that is my opinion, guys. I would love to know what you think about this episode. Leave a comment below and let me know. And if you would like to sign up for jury duty, hit the subscribe button. If you'd like to know who's next on their bell, hit the notification bell. Until next time, I can't wait for you to approach the nerd. Bye, guys.
Thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate it, but hey, the party doesn't have to stop now. Click on one of these videos and keep it going.